Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. As Kogi State indigenes gear up to go to the polls over the weekend, Governor Yahaya Bello has said he expects nothing less than 100% of the votes from the state central senatorial district on Saturday. Kogi State voters, especially those in Kogi West Senatorial District, have dual voting assignments on the same day, while they join voters from all other parts of the state to elect a governor who will steer the ship of the state for the next 4 years. They will also be voting to determine who will represent their zone in the Senate, following the annulment of the election of incumbent Senator Dino Melaye by the Appeal Court. To discuss this and more, we are now being joined by Eniola Bello, Managing Director, This Day newspaper. Eniola Bello, also known as NEB. Welcome to the morning show. It's good to have you here. Now, what is happening in your state? I mean, in the last 4 years, we've always been hearing about, violence, about quarrel, about conflict, either in local government elections or other elections, or even in terms of relationship among the Kogi elite. What do you think is responsible? Many blame the governor. They say it's Yahaya Bello not providing the required leadership. Some say it's the Kogi elite that has gone to sleep. Some say, well, this is as a result of outside influence in Kogi State. What, in your assessment, is the cause of this chaos in Kogi State?
Essentially, I do think it's a combination of all these issues, but more in particular about the governor. Because he was a man who did not contest election. The election had been won before he was brought in. So he promised nothing. He was not prepared to be governor, although he ran in the primaries and lost. And when the person that won the election, Audu, died, by whatever legal magic, Yahaya Bello was brought from nowhere to be governor. And before he became governor, he worked against the party. He had already moved on after losing the primary of the party. He had an agreement with PDP to deliver his local government to PDP. He was paid, there was a signed agreement for which he was paid and was promised to commissioners. So he delivered his local government to PDP. So ordinarily, if we're able to follow party discipline, it shouldn't have been brought back. But because of some internal politics of APC, where they wanted to deal with Tinubu, they didn't want somebody from his camp to be governor. And the reason is quite simple. When Audu was going for the election, or the primaries election, he ran to Tinubu for cover because he worked for Kwankwaso during the presidential primaries of the APC. And when Kwankwaso lost, he knew Buhari would not want him to be the candidate of the party. So he went to Tinubu for cover and said, okay, give me one of your boys as running mates. And Tinubu gave him this guy in Lagos.
James Faleke.
Yeah, Faleke, as running mate. So when Audu died one way or the other, he died, and before the election was announced, because they had won, they brought in, because they didn't want a Tinubu person to be governor, so that he would not have an arrow into the north, looking at power calculations. That was what happened. So Bello did not work for the elections. He worked against the party. He became governor. So by the time he became governor, he had a lot of people opposed to him. That, look, you didn't work for us. You are working for another party. So now he became governor. So the only way he felt he could govern was to become violent, was to use violence and cut off all the leaders of the party, fight all of them, and impose his will. Unfortunately for the state, he had no ideas of what governance is all about. And for the past 4 years, it has been a disaster. In fact, Kogi State has been unlucky to have governors in the last 20 years who are below average. Bello is the worst. He's completely clueless.
Yeah, what are the odds that he's not coming back? Because even though there are 23 candidates, even the Arise TV just showed now, just 2 candidates. It's him or Engineer Musa Wada. Yeah. Engineer Musa Wada does not have 10 billion naira approved by the Senate at the request of the president last month, ostensibly as a refund for projects undertaken. But, just 3 days to an election, it looks pretty poor.
Now, if elections are won in Nigeria on record of performance, on pedigree, on leadership and vision, when one would say Bello is out of it. But unfortunately for us, lessons are not when Nigeria based on what you have done or what you are capable of doing. Other issues coming: ethnicity, religion, elite interest, violence, and all those issues are playing in Kogi State. Now, if you take them one by one, take ethnicity for example. Wada is from Igala, Kogi East, and by the nature of Kogi politics, just as a background, Kogi has three major ethnic groups. You have the Igala, you have the Ibira, and you have the Yoruba. And none of those groups on his own can dominate the others. Although the Igala, they are a little more than the other group, but on their own, they cannot win the governorship. They need to have a coalition with one or the other group. Now, because of their experience in Benue State, we have only in Benue State before Kogi State was created, where they suffered, they were dominated by the thieves and abandoned, and so they knew that to have any impact, the only way to control things is to be in government. And for the past 20 years, the Galas have been in government. In fact, they've provided the government for 19 years. Audu was there for 8 years. Ibrahim Idris was there for 9 years, really. And then there's Wada for 4 years. So cumulatively 19 years. And throughout that period, they have turned the government house into an Igala house, where if you cannot speak Igala, you cannot have access. So for them to be out of power for 4 years has been an issue for them. That Bello has been there. Yeah. So they are desperate to go back. And for the Igalas, wherever they have a candidate, they all rally around the candidate. They all vote for that candidate. Yeah, M-block. So that is what is playing out. So the Wada has perhaps Igala secured. But then there is Bello's deputy, who was his chief of staff. The guy, as chief of staff, was in control of the streets. He empowered mobilized some youths, and what they used to do is violence. So they have the resources to not necessarily to win the Gala area, but to whittle down the votes there, cause confusion, cause violence, and the election there will be some areas will be cancelled. That may be one of the strategies. Another one is that they have changed Kogi State because the Audu family, either political or whatever, or even the Balika family, who have not been happy since the man died and have been cut off. They've renamed the university after Audu. Now, when the university was created by Audu, he named it after himself. And the people were not happy that everything Audu was doing at the time, he was naming them after himself. So the moment he lost the elections, the assembly moved and changed the name to Kogi State University. But now that Bello wanted votes from Igala, he named it after Audu. So the family now is happy. So they are prepared to work for Bello. Now, that's on the Igala side. You go to the Central, where ordinarily the Bello comes from and should control. But then in the last 4 years, he has cut off all the leaders in the area, as he has done in all the zones. And he has not performed. Now, this is a state that is essentially like all upland states. They live on civil service states. They live on salaries. And the man has not been good at paying salaries. They are farmers. And the man has encouraged Fulanis, all those headers, to come to Kogi State and turn Kogi into a frontline state in this harder farmers' conflict. So you see those Fulani headers destroying farms, destroying farmlands. So that is the major issue. And where there are conflicts and people are killed. So on those two issues, it's really enough for Bello to lose. But then, and then, unfortunately for him, there is this lady, Natasha from SDP, who has quite practically also moved into the center, also from the Central, and a man like Bello. And whatever is it that, although he doesn't have the spread to win the election, he's capable of whittling down Bello's votes in.
But this is what I wanted to ask you, because in the past week alone, we have seen 2 attacks on her, and they've been quite brutal attacks. And one would wonder, seeing as it does already look like a 2-man race, why is she such a threat? And she's also alleging that it's the governor, Yahaya Bello, right?
I'll come to that. The reason is this. Bello wanted a bulk food from his own area to counter the Gala side. But with her influence, she's going to whittle down a Bello's vote in the central because she's popular in that area. She has done for the people much more than Bello could ever do in 8 years. So, and she's tenacious, she's aggressive, you know. So she's quite popular in that area, and she's capable of not allowing Bello to have the kind of votes he would want to have in the central. So that's why to Bello, she's most dangerous.
But let me ask you, why is it that the police appear to have been completely helpless in Kogi State?
Where have they been helpful in other states? They've
No,
been helpless everywhere.
But in Kogi State especially, because Natasha Akuchi, when she was attacked on Saturday by thugs, he said the policemen were there, they pushed her down, they assaulted her, that no policeman tried to intervene to protect her.
Well,
and meanwhile, the Inspector General of Police was inside the hall where they were holding the event. So why is it that the police have taken sides?
I am not surprised because essentially Bello has, in the last 3 years, made himself a villa person. Practically, one would have even thought that perhaps he was the governor of the villa. He's always in the villa, following the president all over the place. So with those kind of body language, the impression is that he has the kind of power that those people, because of access to the villa, he has the kind of power. Maybe that's why the police are helpless. That perhaps and imagine even the money they're giving him, that 10 billion, for a project nobody has seen. Nobody has seen those projects in Kogi State, but who is getting refund. So it's obvious it's for him to fight the elections.
I mean, it's obvious and it's dreadful that the ruling party would abuse their power in this way and take advantage of the Senate in this way. But I have to make a note about Natasha Akpoti because I think she's amazing, quite frankly, such an Amazon. She reminds me, do you remember, it was my birthday present a few years ago, Elizabeth Warren trying to testify, Senator of Massachusetts, trying to talk about or speak against the appointment of Jeff Sessions as Attorney General. He was Trump's nominee, and everybody was trying to shut her up. She was talking about his appalling records with civil rights. And Mitch McConnell said of her, she was warned, she was giving an explanation. Nevertheless, she persisted. And that, for me, is Natasha Akpoti. But it's really worrying what has happened to the SDP Secretariat, how that was burnt, what has happened to her personally, the kind of abuse that she has sustained, what has happened to her driver who had to be hospitalized. We're talking about women's participation in politics, but then we now look at something like this. It's completely off-putting. We're talking about trying to create a level playing ground, but as you've just clearly delineated, we don't have any kind of level playing ground. It's all about ethnicity, access to the villa, all these really primitive factors come into play. What are your hopes for Saturday?
Well, I really don't have any hope of anything good coming out of that election. Either to Bello win, it's the same story for the last 4 years. And should Wada win, another unfortunate thing for the state. The reason is simple. Now, Wada is an in-law to the former governor of Kogi State, Ibrahim Idris. He married his daughter. And like I told you that the state has been governed by the Gallas in the last 19 years. Idris became governor for 8 years, and throughout that period, there was little or nothing happening in the state.
So you are saying
and he also imposed another governor, another Wada, that is the half brother to this Wada. So I don't know,
assuming that this Wada will not be his own man.
Well, he won the primaries not because of Idris. He won in spite of him because he was supposed to him. He wanted to impose his own son.
Okay.
But unfortunately, family will override at the end of the day.
We'll have to take a short break now. We still have with us Eniola Bello, Managing Director of This Day newspaper, discussing the upcoming Kogi gubernatorial and senatorial elections. We'll take a short commercial break and we'll be right back. You're still watching The Morning Show here on the Arise News channel. And still with us in the studio is Eniola Bello, also known as NEB, Managing Director of This Day newspaper, a Kogi State indigene who has been commenting on the upcoming elections in Kogi State of Nigeria. Now, NEB, now you've done a good job of, giving us an outlook of Kogi State politics, and also the dynamics of the coming gubernatorial elections on November 16, that is Saturday. But there's also senatorial election in Kogi West. Two persons that are well known to you are the main contenders there following a court judgment. You have Smart Adeyemi, Senator Smart Adeyemi, former president of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, our colleague, and then your brother Dino Melaye. What do you think is likely to play out in Kogi West? Because Dino Melaye has said, Smart Adeyemi is my political wife. I defeated him in 2015. I defeated him in 2019. I will defeat him again. How is that going to play out?
That's interesting. Before I go to that one, let me just talk about Kogi West.
Okay.
In terms of the governorship.
Okay.
Now, like all parts of Kogi State, the people in the western part, they were not happy with Bello too, on usual performance, salaries and usual headers for mass conflict. But then they are changing, or a group of the elites, some elites in the area, they call themselves Kogi elders, Kogi West elders. They are looking at the fact that if Wada should become governor, some of them are in PDP really, that Yahaya again will be there for 8 years. And they have been asking for power to come to their own area to power shift. The Okun Yoruba people. They also want to be governor. Now, that they were not support Bello to do 4 years, so that in 2023, the Igba people, the Central, will support them to produce the governor. So at the end of the day, it's not so much about the people, it's elite interest. So that is, again, critical. In other words, ordinarily, where Bello should have had a block vote from the West against him, the West vote will be divided. Because there are people who are still sticking to PDP, who are in PDP, who are saying, well, we'll go with PDP. But there are also some of them who are saying, no, we'll go with Bello. Because we want the power to come to our area. It's easier to wait for 4 years rather than wait for 8 years.
But is it automatic?
It's not automatic.
Exactly.
But they believe, because Bello had a meeting with them and promised to support them when 2023 comes, or that they generally will have to rally around them. If it's rally that, these people supported us to have a turn, let's support them to also have their turn.
Bello assumes that it will still be that important in Ibira politics by 2023.
So that one is there. That will also be play out during the elections. Now, in terms of Dino and Smart. Now, let's put the whole thing in context. In that area, they have what is called a kind of zoning formula when you are going to the National Assembly, either House of Reps or Senate. When you stay 2 terms, 8 years, it goes to another part of the group. Because there are 4, the Kogi West people, they have about 4 groups. So it goes to another part. Sub-ethnic, yes. Smart spent 8 years. He refused to leave. And because of his relationship with the PDP at the center, under Jonathan, he was able to get another term. So the leaders of the area, generally, they were not happy that this man has disrupted our zoning formula. So they did not, therefore, work for him. Now, that was how Dino won the election. It wasn't that Dino was popular in his own right. It was just a protest. That, okay, he wants to Senate, we won't work for him, let him go and do it on his own. That was how Dino won. Now, unfortunately, Dino and Bello, they fell out, and Bello tried to get Dino out. Again, there was some nationalism that came in, that how can an Ibrahim decide for us who will be a senator? We will not allow that. Yeah, Dino might be what he is. It's not as if we are happy with him, but then we will not allow somebody outside to tell us who represents us. And they left. So that was why the attempt to recall Dino collapsed. Really, the people were not involved. Now, so the election that's coming up. Now, first on Smart. Smart is backing Bello. In fact, it's the DG of Bello's campaign. The luggage that Bello is carrying would naturally affect him. Aside from the fact that there are people who have been there who are not happy with him when he was a senator, who have also been working against him. Particularly on this issue of not allowing, that after he refused to accept that he only has 2 terms, that he has finished his 2 terms, let him go arrest, let somebody else be there. And Dino has done 1 term, let him also finish his 2nd term, and then leave the scene. So that one is there. And there's also the issue of Dino himself. The way he talks, the way he behaves, the way he abuses people, his general lack of decorum.
Well, it looks like a personal style,
Well,
rather than lack of decorum.
Well, personal style, but then for us as a people, we feel embarrassed. We are not caught that way. You know, we are trained the best tradition of Omoluabi. So for us, it's always
but you must know that Dino Melaye is quite a famous man. You know, people love his dancing. They love his singing.
He's famous. You know.
I think people laugh more at him than with him. You know.
More famous than famous.
But so what do you predict? From your analysis, it looks like Dino Melaye may win in Kogi West.
No, I didn't say so. It could go either way.
Well, that's the
deductive reason. In a free and fair election, because they are also, look, Dino went to Yagba and abused their leader there, that the man is the Asiwaju of Anyo. You know, Anyo is cockroach. You know. And he's a man who has empowered his people. So the whole community, they mobilized and had a meeting and said they will not vote for Dino. And undoubtedly, these are people who are traditionally PDP. And that's the way he talks. Look at his campaign rhetorics about how he's more handsome, taller, better in the
so shocking.
You know, in bed than.
No, he didn't say he's better in bed. He said he's better in Kerewa.
Well, what is Kerewa?
Well, I won't say that on TV.
So generally, it goes around people who have assisted him, either assisted him with funding, you know, they say he doesn't call back to say thank you until it's time again to spend money, he will come again. So generally, the political elite, they are tired of him, you know. So some say that, well, they will not work against him, but they will not work for him.
Come to think of it, the recall process sort of indicated his popularity. But when I think about it now, the recall process, it's too involved.
It wasn't because it was popular.
Yeah.
It was because of the substance.
Even with regardless, the recall process is too involved. You might as well be running an election campaign. That's why really nobody will get recalled, quite frankly, no matter how unpopular you are. It's too difficult, that route. Yeah. So it's got nothing to do with his popularity, come to think of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, I know that you mentioned that security is not just a problem with Kogi, it's a problem overall, but there are serious tensions leading up to these elections that we've spoken about over the past 30 minutes. So security has to be a key worry ahead of Saturday. Do you think, really and truly, that we are prepared security-wise for these elections, or do you think it's just going to go up all guns blazing?
It'll be the same. It's who control the street that will take over. And I must confess, absolutely, the APC, they do. They have control of the streets. All the boys who carry the guns.
Well,
APC fund them.
So the Bello and Onoja ticket have cornered that.
Yes.
Let's open this up. I mean, we had a guest to discuss the gubernatorial elections in Bayelsa State on Saturday, and he also expressed a lot of concern. He was saying, what is happening in Bayelsa State is sad, it's frightening. And now you have discussed Kogi State, and you have talked about the streets. I mean, that's not part of anything in the elements of a democracy that we know. You've talked about ethnicity. You've talked about even sub-ethnic groups. You've talked about the suboptimal performance of governors in Kogi State since 1999. I've not heard you say anything, so exciting or positive or progressive about developments in that place. What does this say about our democracy generally? Because I mean, we've discussed Bayelsa and Kogi this morning. You might as well say the same thing about almost every other state.
It's a really bleak
so
picture.
What's your take about democracy? Do you think we are getting this democracy right?
Absolutely not. See, the democracy that we've been practicing since 1999, it's not democracy at all. It's absurd. For me, we need to go back to the basics. We allow the military to impose something on us that we, rather than look at it and re-examine it and go back to what it was under our founding fathers. Because I believe the problem of this country really is deviating from what our founding fathers gave us. Now we cannot even talk of anybody in politics. Very few people can talk about in our politics. I can see this as a role model. There are very few. They are just not there. Either in terms of the way they speak, in terms of the way they comport themselves, in terms of the way they live their lives, they are not there. It's all about money and violence and a lot of carrying people around, and it's bleak. What we are doing is not sustainable. I don't know how far we can go, except the youth can take the country back.
Well, I see you are very concerned. Are you going to go home to vote, or
No, I won't go to vote.
You didn't register at home?
I registered here in Lagos.
Okay.
So if I do go home, I try to mobilize the people. It's only little I'm going to mobilize for. I never believe in the candidate of APC and that of PDP. I love this woman, but
Natasha,
she's a kind of only in one area, only in one zone. She doesn't have what it takes to win across the state.
So bleak, it's kind of grim. I mean, is there a silver lining you could find us from somewhere? There just isn't.
It's such a shame, right? It's like, when is it going to come to that point when you can finally say that someone can rise above the obvious two and really just have a chance? Like, everyone seems to love her. Everyone.
But is there any hope that someday, I mean, whatever happens on Saturday, that someday Kogi State will be able to push the best and the brightest forward?
Why that hope has a kill leg is that the people who have taken over and who are replicating themselves are those characters, the same kind of charlatans and criminals and whatnot. They are the one in charge, and rather than allow people who are decent to come in, they are blocking the gate and replicating themselves. You know, either they are trying to put their in-laws or children or whatever. Look, I just told you about the former governor, Idris, who, when he was going, he brought in Wada, and now, because he fell out with Wada, because why did he fall out with Wada? He claimed he spent 5 billion to make him governor. He wanted a refund. I understand that one paid about 3.5 billion and stopped paying. He got angry and he fell out. So he brought his son and wanted to make his son governor. That one didn't work out for him, but his son Logodier, his son in Logodier. Now, I'm sorry, should that one win now? I'm sorry they will find a way to reconcile, because the daughter will be first lady.
Sad story on all fronts. Thank you very much, Eniola Bello.
Thank you.
We hope that, you know, the people will survive beyond Saturday in Kogi State. We hope.